Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. So, yesterday we had started a new chapter of the book, Footprints Without Feet. The name of the chapter is A Question of Trust, and it is written by Victor Canning. So, before we start further, let us just recap what we had done yesterday. The story has two characters. One is Horace Denby. Horace Denby is a locksmith by profession and he was successful in his business. How can he say that he was successful? He was he could keep two servants for his help. From that I can say that yes, he was successful in his business. So this was one image of Horace Denby, that is a good and honest man. But if you look at it at his other side, he was not completely honest. He was an unusual thief. Unusual thief because he stole once a year only. That is, he wasn't a regular thief. He used to steal only once a year. And why did he resort to stealing? It was to fulfill his passion of collecting rare books. Rare books are very expensive. Rare books are the books which you don't get very commonly. So they are expensive, and Horace had the habit of collecting rare books. So it was an expensive habit, and that is why he resorted to stealing. And then there is another character in the story, that is a lady in red. There is no name for her in the story. She is just referred to as Lady in Red. She is a smart thief. And why do we call her smart? Because she outwits Horace and walks away with the jewels, which Horace had decided to break in. So that is why she is called as a smart thief. So the story begins with the description of Horace, that Horace was about 50 years old, he was unmarried, and he lived with a housekeeper who used to worry over his health. And Horace was very well, that is healthy and happy, but he used to get an attack of hay fever in summer. Hay fever means being allergic to pollen and hay. So and he made locks. So this is what the beginning of the story is, and then there is a reference of the time 15 years ago when Horace had to serve in prison, and he had served a sentence in prison library. And why did he had to serve in prison, or why was he imprisoned? It was because he was caught in an attempt to rob a house. And how was he caught? It is what the story is about. And here it is being said that he had been studying for over 2 weeks a house at Shotover Grange, where the owners had gone to London and there were only two servants living in the house. And that day, the two servants had planned to go to a movie. So Horace finds it the right time to break into that house. So he had been watching or observing the servants, and as soon as the servants leave, he comes out from his hiding position and tries to enter the house. And this is where we are supposed to read from. Page number 21, second paragraph. He had seen the housekeeper hang the key to the kitchen door on a hook outside. Who's he here? It is Horace. Horace had seen the housekeeper, that is a servant, hang the key to the kitchen door, that is key of the kitchen door, on a hook outside. He put on a pair of gloves, took the key, and opened the door. So he wanted to take that key. For that, he put on a pair of gloves. Gloves are the covering on your hand. And why did he do that? Because he was always careful not to leave any fingerprints. He was very careful. He didn't ever leave any fingerprints, so that the theft is not traced back to him. A small dog was lying in the kitchen. It stirred, made a noise, and moved its tail in a friendly way. So as soon as Horace opened the kitchen door, he saw a small dog lying in the kitchen. And As soon as the dog saw Horace, it stirred. Stirred means it moved, and it made a noise, a small noise. That is, it was not angry as dogs usually bark on seeing a stranger. He made a very small noise and moved its tail in a friendly way. And seeing that, oh, a friendly person has come, it moved its tail in a friendly way. All right, Sherry, Horace said as he passed. So Horace calls out the dog by its name. He says, "All right, Sherry." All he had to do to keep dogs quiet was to call them by their right names and show them love. So Horace says that all you have to do to keep the dogs quiet is to be friendly towards them, to call out them with their name and then show love towards them. The safe was in the drawing room. What safe? The safe which Horace was supposed to steal from. It was in the drawing room. Drawing room, a room where the guests are entertained. Behind a rather poor painting, and the safe was behind a rather poor painting. There was a painting hung on the wall, and the safe was behind that painting. Horace wondered for a moment whether he should collect pictures instead of books. So, on seeing the painting, Horace started wondering that instead of collecting books, should he start collecting paintings? But they is the paintings. They took up too much room. But then he thought that if I start collecting paintings, they will take up too much of room, that is, too much of space. So, in a small house, books were better. So, he feels that in a small house, it is better you start collecting books. There was a great bowl of flowers on the table, and Horace felt his nose tickle. And then he saw a bowl of flower, great bowl, a big bowl of flowers arranged on the table. And as soon as he saw the flower or smelled the flowers, his nose started tickling. That is, it has been already told that he was allergic to pollen, and he had hay fever. So his nose started tickling. He gave a little sneeze and then put down his bag. So he gave on when his nose started tickling, and he sneezed a little sneeze, and then he put down his bag. He carefully arranged his tools. He had 4 hours before the servants returned. So he carefully, after putting down his bag, he arranged his tools, and then he knew that he had 4 hours before the servants returned. That is, he had 4 hours to steal from that house. The safe was not going to be hard to open. He knew that he could open the safe very easily. After all, he had lived with locks and safes all his life. And why did he think that he will be able to open the safe very easily? It was because he had lived all his life with locks and safe. That is, he used to work with locks and safe. That is, he used to make locks and safe all his life. The burglar alarm was poorly built. Burglar alarm, the alarm set for any break-in. That is, if a thief breaks in, alarm will go off. So he said, go on. The burglar alarm was poorly built. That is, the burglar alarm was very weakly built. It could be deactivated very easily. He went into the hall to cut its wire. So he went into the hall to cut the wires connecting the burglar alarm. He came back and sneezed loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again. So when he returned back to the drawing room, he sneezed again loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again. How foolish people are when they own valuable things. So he's thinking that how foolish people are when they own valuable things. Why did he think so? Well, a magazine article had described this house, giving a plan of all the rooms and pictures and a picture of this room. And why did he feel that, or why did he thought so? It was because he had recently seen a magazine article where all the rooms were described where all the plan of the rooms were given, and then there was a picture of this room also. Okay, the writer had even mentioned that the painting hid a safe, and the writer had pointed out the painting and said that it hid a safe. So everything was clearly given in the magazine, and whoever had read that magazine would have easily come to know about the plan of that room. But Horace found that the flowers were hindering him in his work. He buried his face in his handkerchief. So Horace found that the flowers were hindering, that is, they were obstructing him in his work. He buried his face, that is, he covered his face with a hanky. Then he heard a voice say from the doorway, "What is it? A cold or hay fever?" So as he was burying his face in the handkerchief, he heard a voice from the doorway, that is, from the door, asking him, "What is it? Cold or hay fever?" Before he could think, Horace said, "Hay fever," and found himself sneezing again. So before Horace could think that who's there or is anyone there in the house, should I reply or should I run, he just answered, "Hay fever," and he was sneezing again. The voice went on, "You can cure it with a special treatment, you know, if you find out just what plant gives you the disease." So the voice started saying, "You can cure it, that is, you can treat it with a special treatment, but you have to first find out what plant gives you this allergy. I think you'd better see a doctor if you're serious about your work." So the voice continues saying that, "I think it will be better if you show it to a doctor and cure yourself if you are serious about your work. I heard you from the top of the house just now." And she says, "I heard you from the top of the house just now. That is, I could hear you when I was upstairs." So before we move on to the next page, let us find the answers to these questions. What does Horace Denby like to collect? What does Horace Denby like to collect? He likes to collect rare and expensive books. Why does he steal every year? He steals every year so that he could buy those expensive books. So we'll move on to the next page, page 22, and there are questions. Read and find out. Who is speaking to Horace Denby? Who is the real culprit in the story? So answer to these questions we will try to give once we finish reading the chapter. It was a quiet, kindly voice, but one with firmness in it. So Horace is describing the voice which he heard from the doorway. He's saying that it was a quiet, kindly voice. The voice was quiet, not very loud voice, and kind. It spoke in a kind manner, but one with firmness in it. That is, the voice had quite a lot of confidence in it. It didn't waver. A woman was standing in the doorway, and when he looked around, he saw a woman standing in the doorway, and Sherry was rubbing against her. Who's Sherry? Sherry is the dog. So Sherry had gone up and was standing next to her and was rubbing her itself against the woman. She was young, quite pretty, and was dressed in red. So Horace is describing the lady, that she was young and she was quite pretty and she was dressed in red. She walked to the fireplace and straightened the ornaments there. She walked to the fireplace, that is, she came walking towards the fireplace. This is the fireplace. Okay, in cold countries you will find nowadays we have heaters and blowers, but in olden times there used to be a fireplace where wood was kept and fire was lit to keep the house warm or keep the room warm. That is, this place is known as a fireplace. So she walked up to the fireplace and straightened the ornament there. Ornament here means the decorative items like this. So she straightened them, put them straight. "Down, Sherry," she said. And then she said to Sherry, the dog, Down, Sherry, that is, sit down. Anyone would think I have been away for a month. That is, she is saying to the dog that the way you are reacting on seeing me, anyone would think I had been away for a month. That is, I'm returning after a long time. She smiled at Horace and went on. And then she looked at Horace and smiled at him and went on. That is, kept on saying. However, I came back just in time, though I didn't expect to meet a burglar. So now she says to Horace that, however, I have come back just right in time, and but I didn't expect to meet a burglar. But I wasn't expecting to meet a burglar. I wasn't expecting to meet a thief. Horace had some hope because she seemed to be amused at meeting him. So Horace had some hope. What hope are we talking about? It is the hope of letting him go. He was a thief, and a lady had found him in the house, and he was assuming that she's the owner of the house, and seeing that she was smiling at him and speaking very politely or very softly with him, he feels that the lady might let him go. That is why he's saying that Horace had some hope. Okay, that is, he felt she would let him go because she seemed to be amused. That is, she seemed to be happy or pleased at meeting him. He might avoid trouble if he treated her the right way. So Horace feels that he can avoid trouble, he can avoid annoying her if he treats her in the right way. That is, if he is able to treat her or answer her the right way. He replied, I didn't expect to meet one of the family. So when the lady says that I didn't expect to meet a burglar, Horace replies, I didn't expect to meet one of the family. So he's thinking that the lady is one of the family member. She nodded, that is, shook her head. I see, what an inconvenience it is for you to meet me. So the lady is saying, oh, it must be very inconvenient for you to meet me. What are you going to do? So she asks Horace, what are you going to do? On this, Horace says, my first thought was to run. So Horace says that the first thought which entered my mind was that I should run. Of course, you could do that. So on this, the lady is saying, yes, you can run. But I would telephone the police and tell them all about you. They'd get you at once. They would get you at once. So the lady says, of course, you can run. But I would telephone the police and tell them all about you. And they will get you at once. For this, Horace said, I would, of course. That is, yes, they will catch me and I would run. But I would, of course, cut the telephone wires first. And then he hesitated, a smile on his face. I would make sure that you could do nothing for some time. A few hours would be enough. So then Horace says, when the lady says that, if you run, I'll call the police. So on this, Horace says, I would. But before that, I will cut the telephone wires first, and then another thought crosses his mind. So he hesitates, stops a little, and then with a smile on his face, that is a threatening smile on his face, I would make sure that you would do nothing for some time. That is, I'll make sure that you are not able to do anything for some time. So he is threatening her. Okay, he's saying that I would make sure that you're not able to do anything for some time. A few hours would be enough. So he's saying that a few hours would be enough. Enough for what? For him to escape. She looked at him seriously. You'd hurt me. So she's asking him, you would hurt me. You would harm me. On this, Horace paused. That is, he stopped. And then said, I think I was trying to frighten you when I said that. So Horace paused. Horace thought. And then he said to the lady, I think I was trying to frighten you when I said that. I was just trying to frighten you. When I said this, I didn't actually mean it. I was just trying to frighten you. Okay, children, this is all for today. Thank you. Have a nice day.